Hello, welcome to Session 3 on Autism Spectrum Disorder.
Brought to you by 2.
We would highly recommend to pause and re-listen at any point to get more clarity, or re-listen to the entire session. When you think of the word autism, what image comes to mind? Does a male child come to mind? It's understandable if your answer was yes, because it's observed at a higher rate among boys, with a ratio of 1 female for every 4 males diagnosed with autism. In today's session, we'll try and understand why it is that girls and women are highly likely to be undiagnosed and receive diagnoses much later on in life. Are these signs and symptoms often overlooked? Recent researches are suggestive that ASD may actually look quite different in girls, so much so that it becomes difficult to diagnose. The diagnostic criteria for ASD doesn't discriminate between boys or men and girls or women. However, it presents differently in girls and therefore goes unrecognized, especially in verbally fluent girls with normal intelligence. Girls on the spectrum also appear to be better at camouflaging their symptoms in order to fit in. With the diagnostic criteria for ASD based largely in how it presents in males, girls can often slip under the radar or get misdiagnosed. Girls with ASD seem to have less restricted or repetitive behaviors than boys, but it's also possible that some of these behaviors go unrecognized. For example, an obsessive interest in collecting dolls may be misinterpreted as pretend play. Here are some of the common characteristic traits of girls with ASD. A special interest in animals, music, art, and literature. A strong imagination. For example, they might escape into the worlds of nature or fiction. A desire to arrange and organize objects. Relying on other children, usually girls, to guide and speak for her during the school day. Conversations are limited to her topics of interest. She may share her focus on a specific interest with you, but cares little for another person's response. This may interfere with her ability to join groups or make friends. Not wanting to play cooperatively with female peers. For example, wanting to dictate the rules of play or preferring to play alone to maintain control. A tendency to mimic others in social situations in order to blend in. An ability to hold their emotions in check at school, but be prone to meltdowns or explosive behaviors at home, commonly known as the 4 o'clock explosion. Strong sensory sensitivities, especially to sounds and touch. For example, clothing tags, socks, or even deodorant. It's fairly common for girls on the spectrum to appear socially competent as youngsters because they are taken under the wings of other girls who enjoy mentoring their peers. These mentors often fade out of the picture as they enter adolescence and find their interests or groups of friends. While girls on the spectrum do have preservative interests, they're more likely to choose interests that appear more typical like TV stars or music. Girls with autism are more likely than boys to be able to respond to nonverbal communication, such as pointing or gaze following. They're also somewhat more focused and less prone to distraction. Autism is more common among males than females, but females are also undiagnosed and/or diagnosed at a later age. Girls' symptoms go unrecognized because of cultural norms and stereotypes. Girls with autism are more likely than boys to have comorbidities such as anxiety, anorexia, and obsessive-compulsive disorder, making ASD diagnosis unclear. Some girls with autism have clear symptoms like self-stimulating behaviors, or STIMs, or extreme speech and language trouble. Their problems with social communication or cognitive challenges are obvious, and they're usually referred for help and diagnosed at a young age. But autism in girls whose symptoms are subtle, or whose intelligence allows them to mask symptoms, may only be found when they're in their pre-teenage or teenage. Our culture may be to blame in part because many girls are expected to behave in quieter and less assertive ways than boys. This means a girl who seems shy and withdrawn may be seen as feminine, while a boy who has the same behaviors is noticed differently in a way that gets addressed. Similarly, a girl who seems spaced out and unengaged is often called a dreamer in a positive way, but the same behaviors lead to autism help for boys. There are similarities, but autism in girls and autism in boys does not always look the same. It may not get noticed in girls until preteen or later teenage years, when it becomes harder for a child to camouflage their autism-related issues. If these symptoms are emerging in a girl's life, and you do decide to seek help, be sure to find health professionals who have experience working with girls on the autism spectrum. Thank you for joining us. Tune in to our next session on what causes ASD.